Not anymore.
You've met Lucy.
I have, Gus.
I'm afraid she's taken a turn for the worse.
And what do you want from me?
We need someone who's discreet. I think you're the perfect fit.
Get him on the table.
We can't afford to mess with these people, Joe. They're dangerous.
Hi, how are you doing? Thanks for taking the call.
No, thanks for asking me on, I guess. I don't know.
I was just speaking to Antonia, and it's quite curious because she was telling me that she really kind of got into the habit of learning how to wear a mask and cleanse her hands literally a month before the COVID came in, no? That must have been quite a bizarre thing for the whole crew and the cast, no?
Yeah, it was probably lucky for us because it was a very, very tight budget. So if we'd been trying to buy masks on the outset, I think it would have pushed us over the edge. They were still cheap, we needed them in December 2019. But yeah, like it just ended up so strange. And obviously just the medical world became just the focus of everything, really.
Huh? I mean, it's funny you said that it became the focus of everything. I get a funny feeling. I mean, I was having a quick look on the internet about, I mean, my parents work in they used to, they're retired now, but they were both, my mother was a nurse and my father was a general practitioner. So I was kind of dabbling a little bit on Google, and I found out that, and specifically the people that work in anesthesia, kind of anesthetics, they are quite prone. I mean, it's not common, but they can be prone to end up kind of getting hooked on opioids and things like that. Was that one of the genesis behind the film?
Yeah, well, I have a friend who's a doctor, and I just heard some pretty wild stories about people, going out partying and things and using the drips and all and stuff. I think it's quite a high stress environment, so a lot of them do kind of self-medicate, and it's kind of fairly easy to do, and they know what they're doing. They can get to the point where they're doing it just even like on sleeping pills and things like that. And obviously this girl, our character's one is kind of taking it to the extreme. She's obviously a very skilled anesthetist, and she still wants to help people and stuff, but her own life is just kind of a wreck, really.
But, I mean, at the same time, I mean, obviously that felt like it was one of the reasons behind the film. But at the same time, I was looking back at some of the short films that you'd done previously, and you did The Morrigan, for example, which was about a couple that take in a young stranger, no? Which kind of felt reminiscent of this. And at the same time, there's one called Here with Two Sworn Enemies that take a journey together. And those two kind of felt like a culmination of what you came to in Black medicine, no?
Yeah, I think that's a fair observation. I haven't really thought about it, but yeah, it's kind of, I think you just always kind of go into themes. I sort of like sort of legal kind of gray areas and stuff. There's another film I did for years ago for like no money called Say Nothing. And it touched on similar things as that. I think just, people, like the best way is whenever people don't think they're the villain, they think they're the hero of their own piece. And like that thought, how far you carry that thought forward, and you use that to kind of extreme lengths. And that, obviously that was the villain in our film, who, she was dealing with grief, obviously grief that was yet to be realized, and what you would try and do to avoid that. And then obviously Antonia's character, lost a daughter or whatever, and how she processed grief was just through drugs and alcohol and just day by day.
It heavily focuses on grief, for example. Was that a specific reason why you decided to kind of have the leads? I don't want to give too much of the film away, but the lead protagonist and the lead antagonist female figures, or did you actually think maybe of have male figures beforehand and then switch it around, or was it always going to be women?
Well, the original draft actually it didn't have, it was a sort of a sex trafficking element to it. It's like a doctor who rescues a girl from sex trafficking. But then we sort of felt like we've seen a bit more of that now, and we're trying to just figure out something that was a bit more interesting. And then once it went to that kind of life and organs and grief, I felt like it was a little bit more immediate when it was two women, who had literally given birth to a child. And, I liked the juxtaposition between the two of them, and kind of how they would deal with the situation, and what one character's kind of moral line is different from the other ones. And, they kind of understand each other, and, in a different life, maybe they could have been friends or whatever. They're both very driven kind of women. But yeah, I think it just became a bit more of a natural choice them both to be of the same kind of gender or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it works really well because I mean, most of the characters, you've got these kind of these big, larger than life characters that are kind of working, especially for the matriarch, of this kind of mafia working there. But at no point whatsoever does the matriarch character Olga, does she feel kind of inferior? She's like dominates the whole thing. Was it difficult to cast her role, her character?
Yeah, it was. So we didn't have much lead-in time to whenever we kind of got the go-ahead. So Northern Ireland Screen more or less fully financed this, but like we didn't have much lead-in time, maybe 4 or 5 weeks till we actually had to shoot. So yeah, casting, it was like I was holding out for the cast. I'm very happy with the cast we got in the end, but I was getting said, look, you have to decide by today. If you don't decide by today, like you'll have, it's just like, because if you're getting to like a week before you're shooting and you've like half the actors you don't have. So it was very lucky the way it came together. And Antonia, fortunately, is friends with Orla Brady from another, and I told her that I would. Yeah, and once Antonia came on board, I said, she was like, "Who are you thinking for Bernadette?" And I said, "I'd love Orla Brady," and she's like, "Well, I know her. I'll just text her now." And turned out she was in Ireland for something else, and it was only going to be a week's work for her, and she luckily agreed. Obviously, there was like very little money in it. I think it was an interesting character for her. Like, I think it's something to get her teeth into. So
I mean, obviously, the two main themes or the kind of the sets of characters that are the medical profession and kind of like this mafia that's kind of working on behind the scenes with doctors now. How important? I imagine it must have been very important, especially the medical side of things, to get things as authentic as possible. I mean, you said you had friends and acquaintances who'd studied medicine, no? It felt very realistic to me. I mean, my parents are doctors, but they don't really speak too much about it. I prefer not to speak too much. I'm quite I'd rather kind of not talk about illness and stuff, but it felt very, I mean, there's certain scenes I don't want to give away that are very clinical and very graphic.
Yeah, well, we had, a medical advisor, Ashing Diamond, on it, and she kind of just likes movies and things. So she was very much on hand to kind of make sure we had all the right stuff. I actually brought in my friend, who's a doctor as well, Matt. And well, he used to be a doctor. He's kind of set up an internet company now. So he was able to come over for a few days. And luckily, because we needed him, because like it was so complicated and you wanted to get everything as good as you could. And the actors like just running through it. We didn't have much rehearsal time or anything. So it was kind of like learning on the job, shooting rehearsals to get, and just getting what you can from each bit. But yeah, in the end, it was like, I've showed it to a few people, and I had an actual anaesthetist who's a friend of mine as well who advised on it. So yeah, we really had to try our best because it is called black medicine, so you can't be really ridiculous with it. It has to be at least semi-grounded in reality.
And then in terms of the kind of the criminal underworld, was it very important for you to get that as realistic as possible to be kind of, I mean, these things do go on. So I imagine at the same time, you want to be kind of careful that you get it right. I mean, obviously you've got more of a cinematic license, if you will, not to kind of take that somewhere else now. But at the same time, I imagine you kind of wanted to get it as grounded and authentic as possible, no?
Yeah, I think we did because it was a case of like keeping it realistic, but also didn't want to bring in any sort of like particular Northern Ireland troubled elements or anything like that. Yeah. I was never set out to make like a social realist kind of a drama, but you have to be, keep it within the realm of something that could possibly happen. But for me, it was like, I don't want to get in to what the criminal things that Bernadette does and everything. She's just really wealthy, and this is one criminal act. Rather than obviously with organ harvesting and everything, that does go on, mostly in sort of poorer countries or like totalitarian regimes where they have like state-sponsored organ harvesting. But I was just like, if you were really rich and your daughter was dying, like, what would you do if you had no morals, and it's just kind of like playing that out as much as you can, really.
And was it easy for you in terms of writing the script to come up with ideas for the whole harvesting of organs, these kind of things? I mean, I was trying to think of the last film that I'd seen that kind of dealt with that subject, and I think the last one that I saw was, I don't know if you've seen it, Dirty Pretty Things.
Oh yes, yeah.
20 years old. That was a great movie, but I haven't really seen a decent one until this one.
Yeah, well, thanks. But yeah, I mean, it's not something that's. I think it's something that people are a bit wary about, and it is a lot more common practice than what people want to lay on. Like I don't want to be cancelled by any regimes here, but like there are large countries that are actively doing this with prisoners and stuff, and taking body parts, to order and stuff. And obviously it can be a bit less sinister when maybe it's kidneys or whatever, but people like in poverty, it's a ticket out of poverty to sell one of these organs or whatever. And it's a really like, I read a few books on it. There's one of them called Red Harvest, is it, or something like that? But they like, it is going on. It's a worldwide, like there's people from America are booking flights to these countries, and they have somebody who's going to give up their kidney or going to give up.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, I think you did write, you have filmed a short documentary about bowling. I mean, I know that's nothing to do with it, but I mean, obviously you've obviously got a very keen interest in this subject. Is this something that you would dare to dabble in as kind of a documentary subject?
Oh yes, I would love to. It's just having the opportunity, really. Yeah, I love documentary. I mean, I haven't done one in a while, but
even something as dark as this, as risque as that. Yeah.
I mean, I love all that sort of stuff. I like kind of I don't know, I guess if you're uncovering something, if you can show something to people that they haven't seen before, I think it's really good to do. I think that particular world is extremely dangerous if you're going down that road, especially where I would want to do it, which is state-sponsored level. And
so you have been giving it a bit of thought then, yeah?
Well, I don't know. I think it would be great, but I mean, you would.
It would be, yeah, definitely. That would be.
Like, I think it's one of those things like you might have your phones tapped and all that sort of stuff. So I don't know if I'm ready for that. I
mean, before I go there, something that I wanted to talk about that I don't want to forget is obviously the young girl, no, Anya, it was Amy Beth McNulty, no.
Yeah.
She's also got a fantastic role. Was there any specific type of character traits that you were looking for to fit in exactly the kind of person that you wanted to be, kind of play the daughter figure that wasn't really the daughter, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, so Amy Beth, I'd heard of her briefly, but I'd seen her in Anne with an E, and obviously it's great to have people who are like higher profile and stuff. But I watched it and I thought this is very different to what I want, and then I was like, I really want to meet her and make sure she can kind of do this sort of like broken-ish girl who's been treated badly by family and orphanages and all that sort of stuff, and her boyfriend, like really exploitative boyfriend and things. And she's just really good actress. I think it's one of those things, someone plays something so long and you just think that's what they are. And then whenever I met her and we did a bit of workshop and everything, I was like, oh, this girl will be fine for this, she can do it, no problem. And then we sort of did a bit of work on making her look a bit tireder and all this. Like, she's quite a preppy, sort of upbeat sort of a person in real life. Right. Put a bit of effort into her, making her, just, hunched a bit, and she was like, just downtrodden and things. So it took a wee bit of work, but I think all the performances were good in the end.
Oh, fantastic performance, yeah.
I think she's going to be very successful. I don't know if she's casting Stranger Things and stuff there. I'm sure she'll smash that. So it's good for me. I'll try and ride on her coattails if I can.
If you don't get caught up in this documentary that you may do.
Yeah. Well,
but no, I mean, talking to the future, just to finish off, then obviously, I mean, you said that you would definitely be up for a documentary, but I mean, I've had a look on IMDb. I've not seen any plans for anything in the near future. Have you got any future plans for a film or anything that you?
Yeah, well, I have a few horror projects in development. I love horror. So one called The Merciless, which is like a home invasion type thing, and then I've one called The Morrigan, which is like a feature version of that short film. Yeah. So they're all kind of with different companies and things in development, and then it's just a case of trying to get the money together. And I've got another crime thriller actually, which is a bit like Black Medicine, but it's just trying to like pull all the cast together and pull the money together at the right time. It's tricky for indie film at the minute,
especially right now. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And then I would look to direct some TV or whatever. So fingers crossed this does well, and I'll.
Yeah. So fingers crossed. Yeah. So I mean, thanks very much for your time. Best of luck with the film when it comes out the end of the week, and hopefully I'll speak to you either about this documentary or one of these horror movies that you've got in the pipeline.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Don't lie to me. This is your fault.